So we're very excited to welcome Ines, Alexia, and Vice President Šuica. We're going to do things a little bit differently for this conversation. First of all, I want to say Louise Hunter, our Managing Director, is leading this project. Unfortunately, she can't be with us today, so I'm giving just a very brief introduction. But the teams, Ines and Alexia, have thought of this amazing project. You got a little preview of it here. And so we're going to leave the discussion to them. They're going to be leading the discussion. They have all kinds of questions for the Vice President, and hopefully, and actually I know, it will be a very engaging and dynamic conversation. So I'll leave it to you to start.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity for us to ask you some questions and share our project. So we would like to start off with a basic question about fake news. So obviously, youth is surrounded by disinformation and fake online news because we live in this digitalized age where we are obviously very involved with technology. One sometimes does not have the capacity to discern them from the truth, and that is something that Ines and I are very dedicated in, uncovering the truth. Even though teens are technologically savvy, they are not involved yet in democratic procedures, and that is why sometimes the line between truth and these malicious actions of fake news fades. So in the age of information, with the augmenting power of fake news, that becomes even more aggressive and paradoxically more subtle as well. How can we protect youth from subconsciously shifting away from democracy and adopting anti-democratic beliefs?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for asking me this question, because everything is about digitals, as you see today, and if you were present upstairs, you must have heard what we were talking about. I would answer with one word. The most important issue, keyword, is education, because if we start with good education, we can do a lot together. So since my original profession is teacher, so before I entered politics. So I think that we have to start teaching young children from the early childhood, from kindergarten, as I said, and then make you proper democratic citizens who are able to take part and hope to participate in democratic procedures. This is very important. I will tell you one anecdote. I was the mayor of the city of Dubravka 15 years ago, and when I was there, we established children city councils. We established children mayor. So they had elections, they did everything, so imitating us elderly, or grown-ups, but I think this was very important to move. So when we started working on a strategy on the rights of child in the European Commission, for which I am in charge, we opened public consultations. You might have followed this, and more than 10,000 children participated. And we drafted this strategy on the ideas of your friends, children from all over Europe. So this is very important, to open public consultation and to invest in education from the early childhood in order to make you capable of differentiating between what is good and what is bad, what is fake, what is not fake. And this is the only way how to avoid fake news, is to be literate from the early childhood. This is how I see the solution to this problem, which is evident. It's all over the world nowadays, and it's global.
So first of all, thank you so much. You mentioned education and the importance of it. But what kind of education? Because we're always, in the educational system, we always learn how to do things. But I believe that right now we have to be involved and use the education system as a means of finding ways to involve teenagers and youth in democratic elections. So that could happen. I believe that teenagers could be involved and participate in elections and decision-making about first of all, their school as teaching grounds, but then also their community and their nation. So the education system could be used as that means because of its reach. So but the education system right now hasn't changed in relation to the changes around us. So why do you think that that has happened? And how can we change the education system to involve teenagers and not just teach them?
Okay, involvement and engagement are the most important issues. I don't know if you are talking about education system in Greece or all over Europe, because as you know, education is still under the competence of member states. So I cannot talk in general about your system, but I think that all of these systems are undergoing different reforms, and I hope that the Greek system is undergoing this too. So this is, according to my opinion, this is very important to make young people participants of all these democratic processes. And I saw in your film that you asked for voting age 16 year. You know that it's from 16 to 21 in some other, in the States, I think. And what we did here for the Conference on the Future of Europe is that we think and we define young people from 16 to 25, which means this is the age you are searching for. So 1/3 of all participants in this big conference will be young people from 16 to 25. And this is how we are trying to lead, to show best practice maybe from not only European Commission but also European Parliament and also European Council. So I think that it will, if you are engaged enough, if you are active enough, that you can, I'm sure that your government and the authorities here in Greece will follow what you are saying. So you have to be vocal enough, and I hope that you will manage.
Great, thank you so much for the answer to this question. And drawing back to what you said about education, obviously education is a fundamental right for every human being since the Declaration of the Human Rights in 1948. Nonetheless, there are some groups that still struggle with acquiring the correct education. So especially, we would like to draw it back to refugees. So refugee minors in Greece and in other countries of Europe all have problems when dealing with education. So access to education is provided in some cases, but we have to admit that some of them have a poor level of education while arriving. And then as well, there's the access to education depends on the location a lot, and the infrastructures, the teachers, the training, etc. So with a lack of basic knowledge, but more importantly, and what we care about, the lack of correct education of basic democratic principles, how can you envision young people as responsible citizens of Europe one day?
Thank you for this question. I hope you are aware of, I mentioned the first ever European strategy on the right of child, but also child guarantee. Child guarantee is something which we adopted in June this year, and I'm working on it together with Commissioner Schmidt, which takes care about vulnerable children. When I say vulnerable, it means also minors, refugees, and those who also come to the shores or to the borders of Greece. So we think that each child, and this is my personal opinion, but this is also, I can say this on behalf of the European Commission, that every child, regardless of its background, of its social status, of its race or its ethnicity, should have same start in life. And this is what is our basic point. We start from this. And this child guarantee ask member states to implement it, which means that it gives same access to health, to education, to social protection, to nutrition, to housing, to all children. And integration is, we know that it is complex procedure. It's not easy, especially here in Greece, but we think that we can integrate those children also on an equal basis, on an equal footing. And this is my position. I think that, of course, national authorities have to work on it, and I'm sure that they are working. But as we know, Greece has many different problems, from national disasters to of course, migration flows, to economic crisis, which is, I hope it's over. So it's not easy for your government, but I'm sure that they will deal with this.
Thank you so much. You just mentioned children, how important they are, and then before youth is 16 to 25. A professor from Cambridge said that we should lower the voting age not to 16 but to 6. And okay, I somewhat agree with that, but maybe not to 6, but even lower than 16 could have an impact. And right now there's an age bias in the voting system. There are a lot of more older people voting than young people. And I think that maybe trying to aim and lower the voting age to below 16 would provide more authentic voices of youth. So what do you think about that? I mean, 3,000 years ago, the voting age in Greece was 18, and 3,000 years later, it's very similar to that. And now we have the technology all around us, and we can have all the information that exists. So what do you think about that?
This is a very provocative question, which you put. So it's hard to reply to this question, but what I said, and I will reiterate it, we want to teach children from the early age to be European citizens, to take part in democratic processes, even on the level of which I described you in the city of Dubravka when I was mayor. So you have to teach them to be taught democratic procedures, and this is how I see your role. But of course, I'm against any ageism. When I say ageism, I'm also against saying that people, when they are 70 or 80 or 90, they are not eligible for some functions. This is also not okay, and we have to fight this ageism. So I think the same goes for children. But I cannot answer directly to the question of 6, 7, 8. But of course, 16 I think is appropriate age at the moment. But of course, it's again under the competence of your government, and maybe some referendum can be held here in Greece, but I don't know. It's not European matter, and we cannot, since we are very diverse, as you see, so our mentality, our tradition, our backgrounds are different, so is different our democracy. But of course, democracy is not static, you are right. It has to be evolved constantly, and this is what we are doing with the Conference on the Future of Europe, and we want to involve also young people, but also children. So you can have your children councils or different children groups on different levels, but if you subscribe to multilingual digital platform, then your voices will be heard, listened, and will be analyzed on either by human beings or by artificial intelligence, what I was saying upstairs a few minutes ago.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the answer to this question. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much.
What I forgot to say, and this is very important, next year, as proclaimed by our President von der Leyen during her speech of the Union on 15th of September, will be Year of the European Youth. So this is great occasion to use this year to organize many different either platforms digitally or analog, but this is a great occasion for all of you to participate. So thank you once again for having me with you today.
Thank you so much.